Hello! Welcome to the Baron's Game Room. My name's Aaron. Thanks for joining us. Today, I'm going to teach you guys how to play our newest game, Vilitum. Vilitum is an abstract strategy game similar to chess. The point of the game is to remove all of your opponent's pieces from the board or make them surrender. But in Vilitum, you're not capturing pieces by moving onto their space. You capture them through a combination of moving and attacking with each piece. Sort of a battle chess. First, I'm going to be showing you guys the general how to play for the base game on a 5x5 board. Vilitum has a variable setup, which means no setup is ever quite the exact same. To play Vilitum, first you need to decide which player is going to go first. Once decided, each player is going to take turns taking any one of their pieces and placing them anywhere on the back row closest to them. The basics of Vilitum are that every turn, a player will pick one piece to move and or attack with. So your four options on a turn are to just move, just attack, move and then attack, or attack and then move. So a basic turn would look something like this. The rogue moves and then attacks the archer. Anytime you attack a piece, you take one of these damage rings and you place it onto the piece you're attacking. Each podium is just tall enough for how many hits they can take. Once the damage pieces reach the top, that's when a piece is removed. However, each piece has its own unique combination of movement, attack, and special ability in the full advanced version of the game. You can play a basic version of it where you only do the moving and attacking, which is great for younger players or people who just want to get used to this style of gameplay. We'll start off with the warrior piece. The warrior is your big, strong tank. Has the most life in the game easily with 5 health. The warrior on a 5x5 board can only move one space up, down, left, or right. That's it. His attack range is the exact same. He can hit anyone that is directly up, down, left, or right of where he is standing. In the advanced version, for using his special ability, the warrior is strong and deals 2 damage to any piece he hits except for the other warrior. If 2 warriors end up attacking each other, it's only 1 damage. Next piece is the Cleric. The Cleric is your healer and has 4 life. Now the Cleric does not attack. The Cleric is only a healing piece and it cannot heal itself. So be careful and watch your Cleric's health very closely. Clerics move similar to a rook in chess. They can move any number of spaces in any orthogonal direction. So any number of spaces horizontally or vertically. So any number up and down, any number left and right. The Cleric piece has the widest range for its skill. It can heal anyone directly around it, as well as up to 2 spaces away on the vertical and horizontal. So, from where it's currently standing, it could heal anyone standing in the same column or row as it, and anyone 1 space diagonal from it. No matter which version of the game you are playing, either the basic version or the advanced version, the Cleric always has his sacrifice ability. The Cleric, as a free action, can be sacrificed to bring back a piece you've lost back into the game. The piece that comes back can never have more than 3 life, which does mean if you bring back a warrior, that he will come into play with 2 hits on it. That way he has 3 life when he re-enters the board. In the advanced version of the game, the Cleric's special ability is that they can skip their movement for the turn, and if they do, they can heal twice. So instead of just healing 1 damage off of a piece, they can heal 2 damage off of up to 2 pieces. 2 damage, 2 pieces. So bringing up the middle of the pack, we have the Rogue. The Rogue moves similar to a queen in chess, in that a rogue can move any number of spaces in any one direction. From here, it can basically travel everywhere but a couple of weird catty corner spots. So from where the rogue's currently standing, It can reach anywhere in this diagonal, anywhere in its current verticals, and that's most of the board covered. It is easily your most maneuverable piece. The rogue's attack range is identical to the warrior's. The rogue can attack directly up, down, left, right of wherever they're standing. Now, the rogue's special ability in advanced forms is flanking. If the piece that the rogue is attacking is between two of your pieces, then the rogue's attack will deal 2 damage instead of 1. Next piece we have the archer. The archer moves similar to a bishop, meaning they can move any number of spaces diagonally. So, this little X shape is where it can move. The archer has a ranged attack. They cannot attack directly next to him, so they can't attack the 4 spaces right by them. They can attack 1 space away diagonally, or 2 spaces away orthogonally. So from where he's currently standing, he could hit the 4 diagonal corners to him, or he could hit 2 forward, 2 back, 2 left, 2 right. If you're familiar with the video game Fire Emblem, I'll be honest, I lifted the attack range directly from their archers. It's a little diamond shape pulled directly from their archer class in those video games. The archer's special ability in the advanced version is that the archer can skip its movement, and if they skip their movement, so they can increase their range by 1, which means they can now shoot up to 2 away diagonally, or up to 3 away orthogonally, which I'll actually need to bring him back to show you on the 5x5, meaning from here he can reach all the way across the board. And lastly, the last piece is the wizard. Wizards move like a knight in chess, so they move in those funky little L shapes. 1 and then 2, or 2 and then 1. It's hard to explain. Look up chess stuff, or just read the rules. We do provide a little grid in the instruction books and on our little player boards that can help show you where pretty much any piece can move to. The wizard attacks just like the archer. So, same range attacks. Can't hit directly next to him. Hits 1 away diagonal and 2 away on the orthogonals. Your wizard special ability is that instead of moving, they can swap places with another one of your pieces on the board. They can still attack if they want. So there are certain combinations of pieces that can lead to a draw. It is possible for the last 2 pieces on the board to be pieces that could never win or lose to each other unless someone chooses to approach the other player. In a situation like this, there's just no reason for the rogue to ever approach the warrior. If they do, they lose the game. So they would obviously want to keep running. But there's also no way the warrior could ever catch the rogue if they keep running. We just call this a draw. One final rule for the game is that there is a clause about creating a repeat state. Basically, you cannot perform an action that makes the board look identical to the way it did at the end of your last turn. So, for example, let's say this is how the board looked at the end of your turn. On your opponent's turn, their warrior attacks and deals 2 damage to your rogue. For your next turn, you cannot simply remove both of those damage markers because now the board looks identical to the way it did at the end of your last turn. This is actually pretty easy to get around because all you have to do is change any one little detail about the board and it's no longer a repeat state, such as moving your cleric and removing only 1 piece, or removing 1 piece from your rogue and 1 piece from your archer. Both of those are options that still let you play out your turn without causing a repeat state. And when I say that as long as anything on the board is changed, I mean anything. So it doesn't even have to be an action you've made. So let's say, for example, that this is exactly how the board looked at the end of your last turn. Your opponent moves in, hits for 2. You can just heal 2 off the rogue. because the board still looks different since the warrior has moved from here to now here. So all you have to do to avoid a repeat state is make sure that something, anything, has changed on the board between the end of your last turn and the end of your current turn. So continuing on that example, once the cleric has healed 2 from the rogue, the green player cannot now just hit 2 and stay where they are, because once again, that's causing a repeat state. But what they can do is hit and then move. As long as they move, the board now officially looks different. So that was just the basic 5x5 version of the game. The board can be expanded to a 7x7. So here's our expanded 7x7 board. Don't mind the gaps, it's our first prototype. On the 7x7 board, you can still play with just the standard 5 pieces. Yes, you will have 2 empty spaces left on the board after setup. That's perfectly fine. On a 7x7 board, everything plays the exact same, except for your warrior piece. The only difference on a 7x7 from a 5x5 is that the warrior piece now moves identical to a king in chess, meaning that they can now move 1 space diagonally as well as orthogonally. So from where he's standing, he can stand anywhere in this square around him. So 1 space in any one direction. If you're playing on the 7x7, you can also add in the soldier expansion. These are extra little pieces you can add onto your order that add on a little pair of soldier pieces. The soldier is the weakest piece in the game in that it only has 2 life. Adding the soldiers changes nothing about setup. It does fully fill in your 7x7 board. A soldier piece moves sort of like a pawn. It was the basis idea for it, but it's different. Just look. A soldier piece can move 1 to 2 spaces vertically. So 1 to 2 spaces up or down, or I should say forward or back. They can also move 1 space diagonally. So 1 space to the diagonal. They cannot ever move directly horizontally. So they are not allowed to move horizontal. They can move, as I said, up to 2 spaces forward, up to 2 spaces back, or 1 space diagonally. Their attack range is just like the warrior and the rogue, a melee attack where they can only attack what is directly up, down, left, or right of them. Now, even though the soldier is the weakest piece, it's also tough. Soldier's special ability is that it never takes more than 1 damage from any attack. Doesn't matter if it's being hit by a warrior, flanked by a rogue, or attacked by a pair of soldiers, it's always 1 damage. Other than that, though, soldiers have a special ability from beyond that, where they work well in pairs. Thus why you get 2 of them. If 2 soldiers are adjacent, and in our game, adjacent means diagonal as well, as long as they are 1 space away from each other. So if a soldier is adjacent to another soldier, their attacks deal 2 damage instead of 1. And lastly, if the 2 soldiers are adjacent to each other, you can choose to move them both together instead of only 1 piece, but only 1 space vertically. So as long as they're adjacent to each other, you can choose to move them both 1 space forward or 1 space back. So anyways, that is how to play Vilitum. If you have any more questions on it, you can always feel free to reach out to the Baron's Game Room. We are all over social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can also always email us at baronsgames@yahoo.com, or you can reach out to us on our website, which is just baronsgames.com. So that should really cover us all. Thanks again for joining us here in the Baron's Game Room. We'll see you next time.